All right, so in this video, I'm going to show you how to set up your cold email infrastructure in 2026. I'm going to show you the best method that we've been using at my agency all across the end of 2025 and moving into 2026. And if you just follow all the steps I'm about to show you in this video, then you'll never have to worry about deliverability or just your emails landing in the spam folder, at least for the foreseeable future. And then if anything changes from Google, from Outlook, if there's any more updates, then I'm going to make a new video about it. But until I make a new video about it, this is what we've been implementing, and this is basically the best strategy that you can use. So I'm going to show you everything you need to know. I'm also going to show you how to buy domains in GoDaddy, how to set up your sequencer, how to connect your inboxes, what inbox providers to use, basically everything that you need to know. So just for some credibility, so you know that I actually send cold emails for a living. My name is Alex. I'm the founder at SparkLead, a B2B lead generation agency. I've sent over 5 million emails, booked a couple thousand sales calls, and generated over $1 million in closed revenue for my clients. Just going to run you through a couple of case studies here. 150,000 in new revenue for one of our B2B SaaS clients, 30,000 in new MRR for one of our marketing agency clients, and then for an AI client, they basically signed 7 new deals and added 63K in MRR using cold email. So anyway, let's get into it. So 2025, and especially the end of 2025, it was a critical period for cold email. It was basically a signal that nothing is going to get any easier, and that basically the whole space got a lot stricter towards the end of 2025, all because of new deliverability policies that started coming down from Google and Microsoft. And essentially, most companies, most agencies that were using cold email just didn't manage to adapt, and a lot of companies got wiped out completely from the industry because they weren't able to adapt. And essentially, the industry went through some rough cycles. And if you weren't paying attention to infrastructure, you basically got burned. So moving into 2026, and the reason why I'm making this video at the beginning of 2026 is because proper infrastructure is a non-negotiable if you want to see any results whatsoever when it comes to cold email. So moving into the next point, this is why infrastructure is more important than everything else. Copy and your scripts don't matter if your emails don't land in the inbox. Targeting doesn't matter if your emails don't hit the inbox. Personalization doesn't matter if your emails don't land in the inbox. So essentially, if your emails are landing in the spam folder, or if your infrastructure is getting burned every couple of weeks and you need to go ahead and buy new domains, go ahead and set up new email accounts every couple of weeks, you are going to have a serious problem and you're never going to be able to see results. So you can have the best copywriters in the world, the best go-to-market engineers, who know how to use Clay and enrich all your lead lists and all your data. But essentially, if your infrastructure is bad, then none of that is going to matter. And it's a shame because you're not going to be able to put all those skills and all your abilities to use. So first of all, I think it's important that we clarify what even is cold email infrastructure. So when you hear the word cold email infrastructure, infrastructure is super important moving into 2026. What even is infrastructure? Like, what are the things that you need to be focusing on when it comes to infrastructure in order for you to see results? So infrastructure is very simple. I know you might see a bunch of things online. People like to overcomplicate things, but essentially it's very simple. It's just your domains and then your email accounts that you essentially set up based on the domains that you buy. That's it. And then obviously you need to connect your email accounts and your domains to a sending tool in order for you to be able to actually send any emails. Now, the first step before you launch any campaigns, before you set up any email accounts, the first thing you need to do if you're going to send cold emails is you need to buy custom domains that are lookalike domains of your primary business domain that you host your website on, for example. And you want to go to a reputable registrar like GoDaddy. That's the one that we use. And you just want to buy .com domains. Essentially, you can't skip this step because everything else from this point onwards builds on top of the domains that you own. You don't want to be sending any emails from the domain that you're hosting your website on, because if you encounter any problems with that domain, if it gets blacklisted for whatever reason, then you don't want to have any issues with your website. And plus, if you're going to be sending a large volume of emails, 10,000 emails a month, 50,000 emails a month, even 5,000 emails a month, you can't send that from one domain. It's going to look very suspicious to Google and Outlook. So you want to make sure that you have a bunch of domains, bunch of email accounts that are all sending a normal amount of emails every single day, an amount that a normal human would send on a day-to-day basis. So once you buy your domains, you then want to set up your email accounts, and these are going to be based on the domains that you just purchased. And essentially, these accounts are going to get configured with proper DNS settings like SPF, DKIM, and DMARC records. They need to be warmed up for 14 days before you start sending. It could even be 21 days, but just make sure it's at least 14 days. And they also then need to be connected to a sequencer so you can actually launch campaigns. That's basically your infrastructure: domains plus properly configured email accounts. Now, Where most people mess up, once again, just before I dive into exactly what you need to do, if you make any of these mistakes, now is a good time for you to stop making them. So I'm just going to run you through a couple of the most common ones that I see. The first mistake is going all in on one provider. So, for example, if you decide to go 100% on Google inboxes or 100% on Outlook inboxes, the problem is that if any of these providers ever encounters an issue or they tighten their policies, which happens very often, then you're going to be completely affected because you have all your eggs in one basket. So, if Google has a bad week or a bad month, then your entire campaign is going to get crushed. Then you need to essentially set up new email accounts, which is going to take another 14 to 21 days if you want to set up, for example, new campaigns. And that's basically a very stupid strategy that you can't rely on. It's not a robust infrastructure. Now, the second mistake is having bad DNS configuration. So essentially, the DNS settings is where a lot of people mess up. It's slightly a more technical aspect of the infrastructure because your SPF, your DKIM, and your DMARC records need to be set up correctly. And if they're not, then email providers are going to flag you as suspicious. Then once again, you're going to go straight to the spam folder. And a lot of people skip this step or they just don't do it properly. They wonder why they're not getting any replies. But the thing is, it's also a step that is very easy for you to make a mistake because it's a very technical thing. Now, the third mistake is using the wrong inbox provider. So a lot of people go directly to Google and they pay $6, $7 per inbox, or they go directly to Outlook and they pay $6, $7 per inbox. They might use other cheap resellers that have terrible deliverability. If you don't know what an inbox reseller is, which are basically companies that resell Google and Outlook inboxes, but they do it for a lot cheaper. But the thing is, you could go to the cheapest one and you're still not going to have good deliverability, or you might use a very expensive one and you're basically going to overpay for, once again, bad deliverability. Now, the last mistake is not warming up. So inboxes need time to warm up, at least 14 days before you start sending. Think about it as trying to build your credit score before asking for a loan from a bank. You need to make sure that you have a good credit score, which is essentially your email reputation and your domain reputation, before you start sending cold emails. So essentially, if you skip the warm up and you jump straight into sending thousands of emails, your inboxes are going to get burnt. So these are a couple of mistakes that a lot of people make. And then as a result, when your infrastructure is weak, a lot of bad things can happen. Your domains will get burned after a few weeks. They're going to be completely unusable. And bear in mind that a domain costs $10, for example, per domain. So if you're going to go ahead and buy 10, 15 domains and you're going to be burning them as a result of bad processes and not warming them up, you're going to be burning hundreds of dollars. And then essentially your emails are going to be landing in the spam folder and you're going to waste a ton of money and a ton of time trying to fix problems that were preventable in the first place. Now, to dive into what we do at my agency, everything I'm going to be sharing in this video is things that we implement on a day-to-day basis for ourselves, but also across all our clients. So we've essentially tested every single inbox provider out there. We've done the direct inboxes through Google and Outlook. We've also tested a bunch of Outlook resellers and Google resellers. And essentially, we have filtered it down into three main things that we value when we're trying to select a reseller. So first of all, we want good deliverability and primary inbox placement. The second thing is minimal manual work. So we don't want to be managing and figuring out DNS settings all day. And then third, we want a support team that actually helps when things might break or when there's an error with the inboxes in the sequencing tool. So these are the three things that we value when we're trying to set up our inboxes. So we want to find an inbox reseller or a support team that can offer these three things. Because if you have good deliverability, for example, it could be for a 2, 3, 4 week period and you have good inbox placement, but at the same time, you need to set everything up and you don't have a support team, then once again, when things maybe are not performing that well, then you're once again going to be in a difficult situation. So you need a team to basically set up the whole thing for you because it's a very tedious process for you to do yourself and you want good deliverability. And you want to know that you have a bunch of highly technical people by your side who are going to actually fix things for you when they break. Because I myself, I don't consider myself to be the most technical person. So I need to know that there's someone more technical than me who can also handle these things for me. And because of these requirements that we have, we essentially decided to go with premium inboxes. So this is the inbox reseller that we use for Google and Outlook accounts. They offer both accounts. And once again, we've tested a dozen of inbox resellers and we've just filtered it down to this. And I'll tell you exactly why. So first of all, we have both Google and Outlook in one place. So we use the same provider for Google Workspace inboxes and Microsoft 365. So instead of having two different companies, two different support teams, two different dashboards, we just have one. Everything is centralized, which makes everything a lot more simple. And plus, if you ever want to transfer your Google accounts to Outlook accounts or vice versa, because one provider is having better deliverability, then you can do it through them. Second, it's more affordable. So if you go direct to Google, you're paying $6, $7 per inbox. And the same with Outlook, whereas with an inbox reseller like Premium Inboxes, you pay $350 per inbox. And if you're buying in bulk, so if you're buying 500 inboxes or 1,000, then it gets even cheaper. So that's half the price. So it just doesn't make sense to go direct anymore from a cost perspective. And then they also have a fast setup. If anything, they have the fastest setup from any other inbox reseller that we've tried. Once you fill out their onboarding form, and I'll show you how the dashboard works and how everything works, you just want to submit your order, and within 6 hours, your inboxes are ready. So even if you're setting up 100 inboxes, 200 inboxes, 300 inboxes, within 6 hours, those inboxes are ready. Now, if you've ever set up inboxes before and you've done this directly through Microsoft or Google, you know how long it takes to set up even just 2 inboxes. It could take you 15, 20 minutes to set up 2 inboxes. So the fact that you can set up 200, 300 inboxes and get them all set up for you within 6 hours, it's extremely valuable. And plus, they upload everything into your sequencer. And from our experience, at least, you can let me know if you've come across another provider that can do this. But from our experience, no other provider has had such a quick turnaround time. Plus, you don't have to manually do any of the work. So this brings me to the last point, which is that they handle the technical part for you. And because this is super important, as Google and Outlook have different rules and different requirements, they have different ways of judging deliverability. And essentially, when you use a good inbox reseller, they handle the setup of the inboxes for you, DNS configuration, connection to the sequencer, warm up, all of that is handled, and it's handled correctly because they've done this thousands of times, and this is what their business is based on. Whereas for the average cold emailer who just wants to set up inboxes so they can start signing new clients and bring in new business, the last thing that you're probably going to be an expert in is the technical part of setting up the infrastructure. So now I know that I've been giving you a lot of context as to what's been going on and what you need to be doing, but now I'm going to show you step by step exactly what you need to do. So the first step is you need to provide your inbox provider with the fundamentals. So you need to give them your domains, which theoretically you have purchased already, and you also need to give them access to your sequencer so that they can upload everything for you. So the first thing you need to do is you need to go into a registrar like GoDaddy, and let's say, just as an example, your domain is called icebergalex.com. The reason I chose this is because I have a packet of chewing gum in front of me and it's called Iceberg. So you have icebergalex.com. You're just going to type it here and you're going to purchase it. You're just going to click on buy it now. And then, for example, you can add another prefix and we can call it the icebergalex.com. So we'll say buy now. Then we can have another prefix, which is going to be my icebergalex.com. So this is basically, you get the idea of how to come up with a bunch of different domain ideas. You just want to add different prefixes and suffixes. So we could have, for example, icebergalexpro.com. So right now you can see we've purchased essentially 4 domains. Then you want to go into your cart and then just make sure that you tick this to 1 year. You don't want to purchase it for 3 years. And then you can see that the price comes down to 11 euros per domain. Don't get any of the extra protection either. I'm not going to do this for all the domains, but you get the idea. So you just basically want to come up with a bunch of domains that look like your primary domain. So for example, if my primary domain was icebergalex.com, I'm going to add a bunch of prefixes and suffixes to that domain so I can come up with as many domains as I need. And then bear in mind, you can set up 2 email accounts or 3 email accounts per domain. So if you want to have 100 email accounts, you need 50 domains or 30 domains, depending on how many inboxes you set up. The recommended is 2 or 3. It doesn't really make a big difference. And then basically you want to add them to your cart and just tick this to 1 year, remove all the protections, purchase the domains. And then after you do that, you essentially want to take those domains and build inboxes on them with Google and Microsoft. And essentially you want to do it with premium inboxes if you want my recommendation. So I'll show you exactly how the dashboard works. So essentially this is what it looks like. So this is an inbox reseller. They can set up everything for you. So essentially if you just go into, I can show you a bunch of things on their website, but if I just go to get started, you can see here, this is the pricing. And if you're setting up 1 to 250 inboxes, it's going to be 350 per inbox. If you're setting up more than 250 inboxes, it's going to be 3 per inbox. So you basically just get a little discount if you're buying in bulk. And you're just going to click on get started. And you're just going to type in how many inboxes you want. So for example, if you want 50 inboxes, then that's going to be, as you can see here, $175. It's going to be 350 per inbox. And then essentially when you press proceed to checkout, you're then going to receive an onboarding form or a submission form on your email. And then essentially you just need to fill that out. And now what that form has is it's going to ask you to give them your domains. So what exactly are the domains that you purchased? They're going to want access to your GoDaddy account so they can go in and set up all the DNS settings. They're going to want access to your sequencer, which brings me to my next point. The sequencer that we use is SmartLead. So this is the tool that we use in order to actually launch campaigns and send emails. It's been the best one for us so far. You can also use Instantly or Email Bison, but this is the one that we've been using. So from my experience, this is the best. And you can always get a 14-day trial. So if I just go into pricing, you have the base one. I would recommend just taking the Pro plan at least. And then you can also have the unlimited or the unlimited prime, depending on how many emails you're sending. But I would say a good starting point might be the pro plan. The base one is a bit low because you can only upload 2,000 contacts. So I would recommend starting with the pro plan. And then essentially you're going to want to give premium inboxes your credentials in order for them to then log in to your sequencer and set up the email accounts for you. So essentially they are going to set up everything for you. They're going to upload them into Smart Lead. You're going to wait 14 days. You don't need to touch any of the warm-up settings or do any of the technical work. And then after 14 days, you can actually start sending. So all you need to do is buy the domains, set up your account with the sequencer first as well, so you can actually have an account. Go into premium inboxes, place an order for however many inboxes you want, give them your domain credentials, your GoDaddy credentials, and your sequencer credentials, and then they are going to set up everything for you. Now, the long-term benefit of having good infrastructure is that, first of all, you get better inbox placement and you don't have inbox shutdowns. Second, your domains last for months. We've had clients that we've been using the exact same infrastructure for 6 to 9 months and we've never replaced it. And you can essentially scale from 1,000 emails per month to 10,000 emails per month without having to worry about deliverability issues. You just need to place a new order, and then within 6 hours, you can scale the volume. So this is, at least from my experience, is going to give you a lot of peace of mind, because when you're constantly worrying about deliverability and whether your emails are landing in the inbox, it's a very stressful place to be in, especially with everything that's been going on in the cold email industry. So the manual alternative, so if you don't want to go with an inbox reseller, just so you can actually grasp the kind of value that you get from using inbox resellers, this is everything that you need to do yourself. So you need to buy the domains, you need to manually set up Google Workspace accounts and Outlook accounts for each domain that you purchase. You need to configure DNS settings for every single domain. You need to test your SPF, your DKIM, and your DMARC records to make sure that they're working. You need to connect everything to the sequencer. You need to enable the warm-up. You need to monitor for all your issues. You need to replace all the burned domains when they actually burn. You need to pay $6, $7 per inbox instead of $3.50. And you also need to manage 2 different support teams from 2 different companies directly from Microsoft and Outlook. So just thinking about this list, at least for me, it's exhausting. And I don't want to do this because I used to do this. It's a very tedious process. And I wouldn't recommend this to anyone because you're just paying more for a process that is also just less robust. And it's just going to be a big pain in the ass in the long run. So the reason why most cold emails fail is because of the infrastructure. It's not because of the targeting. It's not because of the script writing. It's not because of having a lack of personalization or anything else. It's because the infrastructure is not good. And the infrastructure is the foundation. Everything else is going to be built on top of the infrastructure. So until you have an infrastructure that you know is robust and gives you peace of mind and good deliverability, then you're not going to be able to do anything else. So essentially, if you do exactly what I showed you in this video, you are going to be set for the foreseeable future in 2026. You won't have to worry about deliverability. You won't have to worry about the technical setup, and you won't have to be an IT expert or understand complex systems and algorithms in order for you to have a good infrastructure. Now, if anything changes, as I mentioned already, I am going to make a new video about it. But until that point, this is the infrastructure that we've been using across our entire client base at my agency, and we've had almost perfect deliverability. Like, deliverability is a part of our system that we don't worry about ever. So we can actually focus on targeting, script writing, and everything else. So all you would need to do is buy the domains, submit an order with the inbox reseller, and then actually get to work and start launching campaigns. So essentially, if you're using cold email, or if you want to start using cold email and you want to set up your Google and Outlook inboxes properly, I would recommend that you check out Premium Inboxes, and you can just use the first link in the description in order to check them out. And if you use this code here, which I wanted to write down on the document because it's my surname, it's a bit of a complicated one, Zartarian20 is going to give you 20% off. So if I come back to the checkout page and I go to apply coupon, you can see that 50 inboxes will actually cost you, instead of $175, it's going to cost you $140. So you actually get a 20% off by using this coupon. So if you want the discount, which if you are going to set up inboxes with Premium Inboxes, there's no reason why you shouldn't get 20% off. Just make sure that you use the first link in the description, because that's the only link that's actually going to give you the discount as well. And then if you don't want to set up your cold email system yourself and you just want an agency to set this for you, then just click on the second link in the description to book a call with me. We'll see if we're a good fit to work together. And then we can actually do everything that I mentioned in this video for you. But if you want to use cold email and you want to do it yourself, then as I said, check out Premium Inboxes. And I guarantee that you'll have really good deliverability. So thank you for watching. Hope this was valuable, and I'll see you in the next one.